everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I got rid of some nasty smells, repaired some legs that had broken off the dresser, and gave this mid-century modern dresser a refresh with paint. I found this dresser for free on Craigslist, so I went to pick it up, and when I got it home, I started noticing some really gross smells. It smelled old and musty, and there was also a smell that kind of smelled like cat pee. And I hadn't really noticed the smell when I picked it up, but it was overwhelming in my garage. First, I sprayed everything down with a 50% vinegar and 50% water solution. I made sure to spray every side of the drawer and let them out in the sun for a couple hours to dry. A few hours later, I came back and wiped everything down with Simple Green. Simple Green has a citrusy smell, and I thought it would hopefully get rid of some of the odors and also clean the drawers at the same time. Once the drawers were dry, I sprinkled baking soda in all of them since baking soda can help absorb odors. Then I also sprinkled some citrus essential oil on some newspaper, crumpled up the newspaper, and put it in all the drawers. Newspaper can also help absorb odor, and the essential oil will hopefully give the drawers a nice smell at the same time. I let the dresser sit with the newspaper and baking soda in the drawers for a few weeks while I worked on other projects. A couple weeks later, I took out the newspaper and vacuumed up all the baking soda so I could sand all the sides of the drawers. The drawer bottoms had stains I wanted to get rid of, and sanding the entire drawer will help get rid of any leftover odor that had seeped into the surface. At this point, I didn't smell anything coming from the drawers or dresser, but to cover all my bases, I went ahead and applied shellac with a foam brush to all the surfaces. Shellac will seal in any remaining odors that didn't get removed by my other methods. Once the shellac was dry, I moved on to repairs. A few drawer slides were loose and missing staples at the back. I used needle nose pliers to hold the staples while I hammered them into place, and then the drawer slide was nice and secure again. The dovetailing on one of the drawers was coming loose, so I put some wood glue on it and used a toothpick to get it in the small gaps since I don't have a syringe. I don't have any clamps large enough to clamp the entire drawer, so I just put a 25-pound weight on it while the glue dried. Moving on to more repairs, both of the back legs had pretty much broken off completely because they weren't supported very well. I removed the leg and screws that held the wood block in place. The hardware that held the leg was embedded in the wood. After exposing that hardware, I just screwed the leg all the way in on the backside and pulled the leg to remove the hardware. I removed any leftover material to create a flat surface on the bottom of the dresser. I cut a piece of 1x6 pine and marked where I wanted my pocket holes to be. I did 2 pocket holes on the front and 5 on the side. I repeated the same thing on the other side, marking where those pocket holes would go too. Next, I drilled all the pocket holes in both pieces. I needed to drill a hole for the leg mounting hardware in the new support pieces, and a 3/8 inch drill bit did the trick. First I used a small punch to make an indentation where I wanted to drill so my drill bit wouldn't slip around, and then I drilled that 3/8 inch hole all the way through the piece and made sure the hardware would fit. Next I flipped the piece around to the back side and used a 1-inch drill bit to create a counterbore for the larger end of the hardware to fit into. I hammered the leg hardware in place, and then it was time to join everything to the bottom of the dresser. I added wood glue along the sides of the support piece and on the part of the dresser that contacted the piece, and then I clamped it in place while I put in all the pocket hole screws. And I used 3/4 inch pocket hole screws. Next, I screwed in the leg and tightened it as much as I could. Now the legs are better supported and so much sturdier. Now with all the repairs done, I moved on to paint prep. I wiped everything down with water to remove anything on the surface before I started sanding. I used 120 grit sandpaper to scuff sand all the surfaces. I don't need to worry about removing all the old finish, I just want to scuff up the surface so the paint will adhere better. Then I used water again to wipe away all the sanding dust. The drawer fronts had a really thin layer of veneer on them, and you can see where I sanded through some of the finish down to the raw veneer. The top of the dresser was laminate over particle board, and you can see the particle board at the back of the dresser. The laminate was really shiny and slick, so I sanded it with the 120 grit sandpaper to give it a good surface for the paint to stick to. The dresser also had a detachable mirror, so I taped off the glass to not get paint on it and have clean edges. I also gave the mirror a scuff sand with 120 grit sandpaper that I wrapped around a sanding sponge so it was easier to hold. I used the same one-step paint that I used in the sewing table bar cart video. It's a cool tone bluish gray color that I really like. I made sure to mix it really well and mix it often as I'm applying it so I don't end up with streaks in the finish. I like to use the paint on, roll off method for the smoothest finish. You can see the slight orange peel texture that the roller leaves, but it dries completely smooth. I could see some fibers in the finish in this shot, so I made sure to pick those out while the paint was still wet. This paint dries pretty quickly because you apply it in such thin layers, so if it's hot out, you have to work pretty quickly. I only did half the top at the time, instead of trying to do the whole top, because the paint would have dried too quickly for me to work with. Here's how the top looked after the first coat, and you can see it's a really thin but smooth layer. I did a second coat off camera and ended up with some patches in the finish, which you can see here. And that happened because I tried to use the roller on a spot that had already dried. So to fix it, I just went in with some 300 grit sandpaper and did another coat, making sure not to go back over anything that wasn't wet. And here's how it turned out. I spray painted the hardware with a brass color and lined the drawers with contact paper to give them a refresh and cover up those old stains. The odor that was originally in the dresser is now completely gone from what I can tell, and this dresser has a brand new life and can have a completely different look with the mirror attached as well. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.